Peace. Quick little think fast. Just like you could ask somebody outside of you a question, and in essence, it's like calling them out on some bullshit or some BS in essence. With self talk, doing that with yourself, in the sense of like just now, doing inner work, like ask yourself, like, all right, why don't I deserve to enjoy my earthly experience? Give me a bunch of reasons on why I should be miserable here on earth, or why shouldn't I enjoy my experience here on earth. And with certain questions that's just like that hit like that, it's like I just thought to myself like crickets, like in the sense of like, yeah, no part of that energy could give a real reason of like, oh yeah, well you should be miserable because it's an illusion. Like that's no reason. Like basically by asking that question, the answers that'll come up will be answers that would be obviously some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So, again, with self-talk, I ain't talking about to do this externally, you know what I'm saying? Again, like with your own self-talk, if you got like a certain voice where when you go to do certain things or bring up certain things, it finds ways to be pessimistic, or find ways to negate, your positive outlook on the situation, you know what I'm saying? Like ask the questions in a manner where, the only answer is gonna sound like bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Because again, it's like it ain't nothing that anything or anybody could say that would make sense on like why you should be miserable in this plane of existence. You know, oh, because pain gotta come with the pleasure. That don't mean you gotta be miserable. You know what I'm saying? you know, oh well, it's a temporary experience. That don't mean you gotta be miserable. And if it's that temporary, why are you sitting here? Why you didn't quote unquote commit suicide if it's so much of an illusion? And again, like having that awareness, like yeah, if it was that to that extent, the key would be committing suicide. Then, you know, and obviously, you working out or eating vegan food or whatever. So, again, like it's not about being miserable. You know what I'm saying? And these are the things, again, it gets that deep in the sense of like, doing self-talk or journaling or working with yourself to really like understand like, you know, what reasonings these voices be trying to stand on, you know what I'm saying? I just laugh because that shit is funny. It's like literally, you can't give me no reason. Well, you meant to go through things. Yeah, you meant to go through things in this realm, but that doesn't mean you gotta stay miserable. That doesn't mean you gotta make sure your life is miserable. Because one thing I realize is, certain moments, negativity or contrast comes with the experience. So why would, on top of the fact that it's gonna automatically come into my experience, like contrast will automatically come into your experience, but it's how we respond to it, and it doesn't have to remain there. It's a certain level of like if we're dealing with it continuously in some way, form, or fashion, we're holding ourselves in that space without realizing it. You know, again, like the video I just did about, dealing with shadow work or inner child work or past life regression, and, realizing with anything, like any spiritual practice, any crystals, meditation, all that, depending on how you apply it, it could be either helpful or harmful. Again, I use examples of, although you got a certain spiritual book that'll help you with spirituality, let's say the power of now. For me, I always talk about the power of now, but if I go to read the power of now, when it's meant for me to take action in a certain area that spirit been telling me to take action in, going to read that book could be unhealthy and be a distraction. Or same thing with meditation. If I'm going to meditate when, my inner being, my inner guidance system, ancestors, however, you know what I'm saying, whatever layer of my inner guidance has spoken already and told me what to do, but then I'm still going to meditate, you know, because that's also saying like I don't trust the answer that already was given. So let me, you know, go back into this meditation, and it gets. I don't want to use a word. I mean, just keep it real. It does get dangerous in that sense of it, where again, where you could start using spiritual practices or spiritual literature or spiritual ideals, like in order to, in essence, prevent yourself from taking the necessary actions that would actually really, really help you with the situation, you're dealing with, or let's just say help you to break out of a certain cycle that you've been constantly looping in, a certain lesson loop that you've been constantly, you know, just like Mario playing the game, I always joke about like you playing Mario and you're jumping over one of those little pits or whatever, and they got the little moving platform, you know what I'm saying? And you got to know when to time it, because if you don't know when to time it, you're going to keep jumping and falling in the pit. Start the board over again, jump, fall in the pit. You got to like, all right, I got to time this little jump. And then we time it and bam, you know what I'm saying? Hop on the little levitating thing and hop to the other side, you know what I'm saying? Now, of course, there's still more levels and more boards to the game. And of course, just like anything, although you, all right, you timed it well and you jumped over that platform, don't forget that skill set because, just when you think like, oh, yeah, I'm the master at jumping on these platforms on Mario, then or you feel like you're so much you've mastered it so much to where you could just kind of throw it to the side like, oh, this ain't gonna pop up again, then next thing you know, the last one of the next boards later on, it got nothing but platforms that you got to jump on, but you two, you were so swole in the head, you was like, oh yeah, I don't need to keep being skillful at that, I pass it on that first board, forget that skill. So in other words, like being aware that, that skill may become useful again later on down the line, even though it showed up on a earlier level or a level that would be seen as novice or, or aka a beginner's level, doesn't mean that situation won't pop up on an expert or a depth level in some way, form, or fashion. But yeah, just definitely, keeping that in mind again with the self-talk, self-questioning, journaling, and that's just one example, but again, like, asking the type of questions that would really just put that little, pessimistic, negative voice on blast, like, all right, why should I be miserable? Again, just simple little ways of questioning things could shift our perception, you know what I'm saying? Because again, like, as you sit there and you see, like, literally you get to witness, like, all right, this doesn't make any sense. Because the whole reason why it's been, and that's a key before I go, the whole reason why a thought like that could, feel like it's plaguing us, because in some way, form, or fashion, we look at it like it makes sense. Like, oh, well, it does make sense on why I should just keep suffering, or it does make sense on why I should just, life should just always be fucked up, or it does make sense on why, again, like, and so the universe, like, your wish is my command, so that becomes, again, since you believe that could be true, but when you sit back, after the meditations and pulling yourself and detaching from that thought and giving yourself enough of space to actually observe it, and then again, like, journal and do the questioning, and you could see, like, all right, this shit, and when you see, like, all right, it has no answer for why, you should be miserable, then you see for yourself, like, all right, yeah, this shit don't hold no weight on that level. You know what I'm saying? But peace, happy now. Now's a vibrate. Shout out to the trees.